According to the Department of Homeland Security, an active shooter is an individual actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill in a confined and populated area. So check this out. Very recently, there were a couple of active shooter incidents. One on April 28th in San Diego at a Jewish synagogue. And the other one was on May 1st at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. At the university incident, students were notified of the incident on their cell phones as it was occurring and directed to run, hide, and fight. Now, if you got a message on your cell phone like that, would you know how to do these actions, and would you know why you would have to carry them out the way you're supposed to? Would you know how and where to run and hide? And the biggest one is, would you know how to fight a gunman? Hey, you guys, this is Sensei Robbie from MyDragonFire.com, and I invite you to hit that like button, share this video with anyone who's concerned with these issues, and please comment below and let us know, good or bad, your opinions about what we're going to be covering today, as well as give us some ideas for what we should add to the channel to make it better, and also subject matter that we can cover in these videos. Subscribe to our channel and hit that bell so that you're notified when we release new videos. So let's dive right in. So just in case you're not familiar with my background, I have over 25 years experience competing, teaching, and training several martial arts and weapons philosophies from Korea, Japan, China, the Philippines, and Thailand. I've been a firearms student for about the same amount of time as I've been a martial arts student. But for about 15 to 16 years, I stepped away from firearms training and focused on being a martial arts professional. But for the past 5 or 6 years, I have been revisiting the steps to becoming more proficient in firearms self-defense. Studying beginners, intermediate, advanced, and defensive classes for pistols, AR-15s, and shotguns, as well as active shooter intervention classes. So I'll take seminars with the active shooter theme just to understand what's going on in that situation and how to handle it. And I've also been picking the brains of law enforcement and military to see their different approaches and see how I can apply that to my, my scenario responses. I build my guns and I don't buy them. So I buy the parts, I customize them myself, build them from the ground up. I'm a member of the National Rifle Association, the Gun Owners of America, the United States Concealed Carry Association, and the United States Practical Shooting Association. I currently am training to win at USPSA competitions with a defensive approach over sport application. What's up, everybody? So the Sheriff's Department is hosting an active shooter seminar right here at the Westminster Gardens in Duarte. Curious about what they have to say. So as I've stated before, once or twice a year I take a active shooter class or seminar to learn how to better handle these types of situations and scenarios. And last year I had the opportunity to go to a city-hosted active shooter seminar presented by LA County Sheriff's very own Sergeant Mike Harding. This man's in charge of the Tactics and Survival Training Unit for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. It's crazy. This man is a experienced martial artist, but at the same time, his job is to research various terrorist situations, church attacks, school attacks, and domestic violence situations which involve active shooters. How they were handled, what went wrong, what was good, and develop systems and teach those systems to law enforcement, school staffs, and places of work and places of worship. And huge source of information. I introduced myself. We stayed connected, and I offer my services as a martial arts professional because officers cannot teach the public how to actually fight and host hands-on contact classes. And I specialize in that. So the following year, he offered the same seminar, different day. It was a little bit bigger, a little bit better, and I wanted to show you guys some stuff today because there's a lot of active shooters situations happening, unfortunately. And to kick off my self-defense videos, I thought I would share with you some key points mentioned in the seminar that you don't hear too many people discussing on this active shooter topic. Some are awesome, and some I don't agree with. So let's jump right in and check them out. This seminar was so informative, interesting, and thought-provoking that every video clip and/or statistic made me hungrier for more research. Some of Sergeant Mike's quotes include, active shooter videos have great concepts, but demonstrate terrible defensive tactics. And that's exactly my thought. If you look at an OSHA active shooter training video that teaches people how to handle the scenario, it doesn't go into detail about self-defense concepts as much as it should. And a lot of the applications to their fight portion of the response, if you are a self-defense professional, it's kind of a joke. But the concepts that they're teaching the concepts are great, but the actual application of the self-defense is a joke. I agree with that. Another one is always rely on 90% of your instinct. And his philosophy is 90% of the time, when your intuition says that someone's a dangerous person, it's right. And I had a problem with that because I'm a black man, over 6 feet tall, over 200 pounds, athletic. My hair is a little twisted and I have a little bit of a beard. People don't know that I'm a multi-black belt martial arts professional with more training than most law enforcement and some military guys. They don't know that. They don't know that I study law and history, and I'm probably going to have a conversation with you before I swing a punch at you. So there are definitely people in this world who want the world to identify them as being a thug, and they will spend their entire lives fulfilling that purpose. But there are also people who you would never expect to be able to defend themselves, and they can probably wipe you out. Okay, so let me tell you, I've had many different instances where I was walking down the street, walking and training a dog, or if I was training in the park, working out by myself, and the cops roll up because someone saw me as a suspect, called the cops, and the cops came by to investigate what I was up to. Actually, the cops would roll up and laugh, and we would end up having a conversation about his job that he had to do. So a challenge I have for you is, could you identify an active shooter threat if you were in your environment? Would it look like this guy or this guy? It would definitely be this guy, right? Oh, no, wait, these guys, definitely. Or maybe him. The most important thing to understand is that anybody can be a threat and anybody can be a defender or anybody can be a runner. If someone identifies me as a threat based on the color of my face as opposed to a narrative, then there are much more dangerous issues going on with that person than me walking down the street training a dog or training for an athletic event in the park. And they need the cops called on them as opposed to me. Another fantastic quote I got from this seminar was, movement is life and speed is your security. If you're going to be moving from point A to point B, you see the exit, you're going to make a run for it. You're going to see cover, which we're going to talk about in a second. If you're going to run for that, you better be quick because movement is life, speed is your security. Very important point that I thought was awesome, and it came up on more than one occasion at this seminar, is Sheriffs have no more of a right to protect themselves than you do. Sergeant Mike made a point to repeat this more than once because it's very important to think about. Whenever I talk to people about self-defense, you got to think about who is considered a first responder and why, and who should be considered a first responder. We're going to break this down in a second, but I want you to think about if a gunshot went off and then another one went off, and you saw where it was coming from, and people were dropping like flies, and you were trained to handle that situation or to help the people who were injured in that situation, who is the first responder? The person who's going to show up in 15 to 45 minutes from that point, or the person who is in the environment when it's going down? Something to think about, right? A lot of great questions came up during this seminar, which surprised me. One of them was, will law enforcement officers know if you're the good or the bad guy? Really key point that came up was, the longer you engage the enemy, the greater the likelihood you will be identified as a threat, which makes sense. If you're drawing a weapon, taking out the threat, and then you're still doing the same thing when the law enforcement shows up, or another concealed carry weapons holder shows up, a security person is on the premises. The longer you hold your weapon out, the more you can be identified as a threat by the next responders that come onto the scene. Very important key point. When the law enforcement arrives, they're going to be pumped, they're going to be amped up and ready to take out this person who's been shooting for a long time and killing people. And if they arrive and you have a weapon in your hands, you better be ready to comply. They're going to try to qualify you as a threat or a defender. If you don't comply and or submit, you're going to run the risk of being taken into custody yourself, or even worse, you might even be shot. Two questions that came up that were very interesting. I was surprised that it came up in this seminar, but I'm glad that it did. Someone asked about cover and concealment. What's the difference? Someone asked about ballistics, which was a shock, but hey, I'm glad someone asked. Ballistics are basically the type of rounds that are being shot at you. This goes back to being observant. If you understand that if your shooter is shooting a pistol, a rifle, or a shotgun, that'll let you know what kind of rounds are potentially being shot. Some are way more powerful than others. Cover and concealment. Concealment is basically what it sounds like. You're being hidden from the shooter. Cover is when you're being hidden by something that can stop bullets. For example, are you hiding behind a curtain, or are you hiding behind a brick wall? Are you hiding behind the door area of a car that bullets can potentially get through? Or are you hiding behind the engine block? If you put the engine between you and the shooter, chances are that the bullets aren't going to hit you as easily. And once again, I'm glad that people brought those questions up, because knowing those little pieces of information are very important when seconds count. Okay, so now we saved the best, most important question of the seminar for last, and that is, what should I be practicing right now? And I think that's all determined by what makes you more nervous in that active shooter scenario as it plays out. You being by yourself, or you experiencing this active shooter situation with your loved ones present, your friends and family. That's going to determine how quickly and efficiently you get to the exit, or that's going to determine how quickly and efficiently you neutralize the threat while you're making your way to the exit. And that's going to be the subject of the next few videos I put out with the self-defense subject. As always, remember, true health begins with inner wealth. I'll see you in the next video.